Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Rangers Rabble. Just as the intro music started, folks, my dog decided to go radio rental, as you can probably hear in the background. So, yes, hello, everybody. Welcome along. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. The subscriptions have been going up amazingly. The likes help share the podcast. I'm going to bring back the old like target because the last time I done that it worked. So I'm going to bring that back. So I'm aiming for 200 likes. Not so much by the end of the podcast because that would be lovely. But I'm aiming for 200 likes for this video. And if we get 200 likes, then I'll be very happy. I can't give away anything because right now we're all pratted. But yeah, if you want to become a member as well and help the podcast grow on YouTube, you can. That would be greatly appreciated. Links are in the description, or you can click the join button below the video. I'm going to let everybody in to a little secret. I want to make this obviously bigger. I want it to grow. That goes without saying. But I want to make this like a TV channel. I want shows every night. I want member content. I want interviews. I want exclusives. I want everything for this channel. And the only way I can do that is by your support. That's what I want. So, yeah. If you're on Facebook, please give us a like and share as well. And, of course, on Twitter, give us a wee retweet, a like, and give us all your comments as well. Yes, Martin has had a haircut. I think I'm the only person on the planet who could have a haircut and it looked worse than before he got his haircut. But there you go. But I'm joined by two men who don't have that problem. William, how are you?
Oh, good, mate. What about yourself?
I'm all right, mate. I'm okay. Wilf, how you doing?
I'm fine, mate. Here in person tonight rather than crashing your intro from a square in Brussels.
Yes, I've still not forgiven you for that. I have still not forgiven you. Right, now that the intros and introductions are out the way, this is a phone-in, of course. So if you want to have your say, please do give us a call. Talk about anything you want. 46,000 Managerial members, one of the biggest in Europe, memberships for a club. I know there's quite a few of you out there who are not a fan of it. So give us your thoughts. Want to talk about the game on Saturday? You can phone in, talk about that. Talk about tomorrow's European game. Absolutely. Talk about anything you want. So we'll start the conversation. Well, I think we'll have a wee look back on Saturday. Clearly, obviously, you were there. It'd have to be a serious issue if you weren't at a Rangers game. From a supporter's point of view, were we happy after the game?
Happy with the result, not particularly happy with the performance, but I mean, it was always going to be difficult against Kilmarnock. I mean, I set up the club deck, so I get a great overview of the way everybody's kind of lined up, and it was very obvious very early on that Kilmarnock's game plan was a typical Derek McInnes trip to Ibrox, and the fact that we were wearing yellow made it even easier to see, and it was basically a goalkeeper up 5 across the edge of the box, 4 across the middle of the park, and a guy about the halfway line sometimes. So it was really difficult to break down, which is what we always struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what summed it up for me in the car on the way home, I was listening to Radio Scotland, and they interviewed Mr. McInnes, because they obviously can do interviews at Ibrox now, and they interviewed McInnes, and he said, and I quote, "Well, we're not here to entertain." So, I mean, they were only ever going to do one thing. So to get the win's fantastic. The result's important. The performance wasn't great on the whole. I'm not quite sure how much of the hospitality the match day sponsors had, because the man of the match was ridiculous. But
who got man of the match?
The sponsor's man of the match was Connor Goldson. Now, Connor Goldson didn't have a bad game. He certainly wasn't man of the match by any stretch of anybody's imagination, because Kilmarnock went up the park often enough for him to have a lot to do.
Mm.
I mean, he was probably in their half more than he was in our half. And he was getting involved in the play a lot up the park, which is fine, because he had to get involved, because I say they weren't really threatening. But I can't remember who the match sponsors were, but they've got to stop the match day sponsor picking man of the match, because that's obviously we want to meet Connor Goldson, because that was ridiculous.
It's money that goes into the club, I suppose, William, but what can you do about it? But on the game itself, me and you were obviously covering the B team game at the same time.
Yeah.
So we've only managed to see the highlights. From the highlights, are you a bit more positive than Wolf sounds about the performance, etc., or is it's difficult to tell for the highlights, though, isn't it?
Well, watch the full game back. I might say, watch it on Rangers TV. So, yeah, look, the first half wasn't great. I would say other than maybe like the Lawrence attempt that crashed off the bar, which would have been an unreal goal if he'd scored it, clearly. Other than that, we had a couple of wee half chances. Nothing really. I think I wrote down a couple of notes saying like the only good parts of that first half was probably the link up for Tillman. He was getting me selling into some really good areas.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just something that we're going to have to be a bit patient with. Because to me, when you look at Tillman, he's somebody that's going to get himself into some fabulous positions, but then it's all the players round about him understanding where he's going to be and how he's going to then like sort of release that ball to Colak or to Morelos or to Kent or whatever. And I think this is just something that it's going to take a bit of time. We looked a little bit more lively in the second half, and obviously the big thing is, as Will's pointed out, when Derek McKinnon sends a team to Ibrox, you know exactly how he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
He isn't exactly open and expansive. He's not going to, do anything that's going to give Rangers any space in the pitch. He'll put his two banks of 4 or two banks of 5 at times, as it looks like when you watch the games. So for me, it's just all about beating a Derek McKinnon's team at times because, as Will said when he listened to the radio after the game, the fact that McInnes comes out and says that, I would be disappointed if I'm a Kilmarnock fan because I think other than maybe 1 or 2 maybe opportunities in the match, they really never looked like they were going to do anything. And I get that teams could argue, they're not here to try and, let Rangers win, but you could at least make the effort to try and win the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also sure Derek McInnes sent his Kilmarnock team to win that game. When you look at how they played, when you look at the actual threats that they brought to the table, I mean, I just don't get it. I don't know why a manager would come and be so defensive, but maybe he's just thinking he doesn't want his team to get beat before or 5, and that's maybe just his mentality.
Well, if you want to have your say on the Kilmarnock game, if you were there or if you watched it on the TV or whatever, then please do give us a call, 0141 628 7237. I want to touch on Tillman in a minute, Wolf, but we have a comment, and the comments are just flying in. So, by the way, thank you to every single person in the comments. And I think it was Fog Dog, there we go. Was the goalkeeper not warned for time wasting early in the first half, Wolf? This is something that I've seen quite a lot.
Yes.
On social media. I don't really know. First of all, how you go about stamping it out. I suppose the only way is a yellow and a sending off. I suppose that's probably the only way you go about it. But can we not maybe, and we're Rangers supporters, right? So we don't care about them, any team really. But can we not maybe give them cut them a tiny bit of slack by saying they're a newly promoted team, they're not very good, they were just trying to do everything they could to get a result?
I understand what he was trying to do, and he was doing it to the nth degree. But to be warned for time wasting in the 18th minute and to carry on doing it and not receive a yellow card for is ludicrous. I mean, as soon as we scored, he was never going to get cautioned for it because he was obviously going to speed himself up a little bit. Even at that, they weren't really breaking records to get the ball back in play. But I mean, to be warned after 18 minutes, that tells you how much time wasting he was doing in the first quarter of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if a referee has to warn them for time wasting, whatever time it is, the next time he time wastes, it should be a yellow card. And if he does it again, he should be off, irrespective of if it's a goalkeeper, a centre half, the striker, whoever it is. So if he'd warned him in the 60th minute and didn't book him, that's fine. But he warned them after 18 minutes and just let him away with it every time after that.
Does that lie then, though, William? Sorry, Wolf. Does that lie, William, with Kilmarnock, or does that lie with the referees?
Well, yeah, like it's definitely down to the referee because when a team comes to play Rangers, and you'll probably see a wee bit of that tomorrow night as well. You'll see them slow the game down. They'll make sure the ball's out of play a wee bit longer. The goalkeeper will slow it down. And as Will says, if the referee goes up to him in the 18th minute and says, right, if you do that again, it's a booking, and then he books him, say, after 22 minutes or 23 minutes, whatever it may be, and then he does it again, he goes up and says, right, that's it, final warning, if you do it again, it's a second yellow and you're off the pitch. But you just don't see it. And as Will says, so what tends to happen in these games where the time wasting works, he'll get booked in like the 89th minute or the 88th minute, because at that point there's no way you're going to send them off.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, to me, all these mad mandates that come down from like FIFA and UEFA and all these different rules, like, sort of time wasting something that is a huge part of the game. And when you actually look at how little the ball is actually in play over a 90-95 minute match, this comes down to time wasting at times as much as anything else. And until they crack down on that, then teams will just continue to really kind of push the boundaries as they can.
Martin, sorry, the thing that grinds my gears about that, where our referees are concerned, right? You've got like the Kilmarnock guy getting warned so early in the game and not getting a caution. If we're toiling in a game and the master of time wasting, Alan McGregor, when he's in the goal, gets warned, he gets booked regularly for time wasting. When he's been warned once, the next time he does it, he gets booked. But these guys get warned 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Yeah. Itchy Fingers, great name, by the way. The average time the ball wasn't playing the English Premiership last season was 55 minutes. Now, look, England's England, Scotland's Scotland. But does that not then just prove that, time wasting goes on in every league? And because people just seem to think that it's, solely the Scottish League and it hurts the product. Maybe it does hurt the product, but it's happening in every league.
It goes on everywhere. I mean, was it last season or the season before, there was somebody that was studying a game we played with Motherwell, and the ball was in play for something like 39 and a half minutes out of the 90, which is I mean, we're paying big money to watch 90 minutes of football or 95 minutes of football, when in actual fact you're getting less than an hour of actual play. And it's the same in every league, and the ball's never going to be alive all the time unless they bring in
the stopwatch idea.
A stopwatch, in which case they need to cut the time, because you couldn't have a 90-minute game with a stopwatch because you'd be there till midnight.
It'd become like the NFL, wouldn't it? What is that? 15 minutes a quarter, and it can last like 18 hours one game.
When I was in Vegas, I went to watch a game of women's basketball with my good lady on a Sunday afternoon at Mandalay Bay, a lovely venue. I thought, it's 12-minute quarters. There's 4 quarters, 12 minutes, 50 minutes, bit of a break, you'll be there an hour and a half. We're there for 2.5 hours because of the amount of breaks and timeouts, and because they actually play for the prescribed 48 minutes.
Yeah, I know, but listen, we can't be slagging American sports because William Irwin's on the podcast, and we can't be doing that.
I'm not slagging it, it's just the way it is.
As like the American side of things is brilliant. I mean, like, they do genuinely get their value for money in America.
Every second, don't they? They get every single second.
Whereas, like, the argument, I mean, like, Walsh absolutely spot on. See, when you have teams who are not coming to try and win the game, you can probably argue that you're lucky to get 45 minutes of actual football. And that is pretty awful, to be honest. But like most football fans, as long as you leave the ground and your teams win, you don't really think about it. But see, like, if somebody was to actually analyse, say, like, 50 games over a season, you'll probably find that you don't really get value for money when you actually see how much play you actually get in a football match.
Good to see, I suppose, Wolf, both Colak and Morelos on the score sheet. Big goal for Colak, I think. He was starting to get a bit of negative press from certain people within the media and from supporters, let's be honest. A lot of supporters were, not a lot, but some supporters were writing him off. Took his finish brilliantly.
He did, but I mean, it's very unfair criticism we're getting. I mean, as John Lundstrom said in the press conference today, I don't know if you've caught up with that, but she said in the press conference today, it's crazy to criticise anybody after 2 or 3 games. He says, if you've had a bad 6 months, fair enough. He says, on a bad season, but 2 or 3 games, he said, anybody can have 2 or 3 bad games. I don't even think Colak was having bad games.
No,
last Tuesday, he got absolutely no service. How can a striker, and that's all he is to me, is a number 9, he's a striker. How can he score goals when he doesn't get the ball? And the one that really, really annoyed me was when Mark Hateley was quoted as saying he didn't rate him. I mean, Mark Hateley's first 6 months at Rangers, everybody was hunting him. Nobody could see why he was there. McCoy's the same. I mean, I remember William Irwin sitting in the Copeland Road singing "Ali Ali Get to It" at a certain time during McCoy's holidays.
I don't think he was alone.
No, because he was at the time.
No, I think what Will's saying is spot on, though. It's like some of the guys that have come out and criticised should remember how their Rangers career started. you know, Ali took a ton of abuse for the enclosure. I mean, I'm old enough to remember some of the earlier games. I remember when we signed Hateley, and Hateley did not start off well in a Rangers jersey. You know, that didn't really hit until a wee while kind of further down the line. So I think, like, I can't understand why, like, Colak was getting so much. I mean, it's not like anybody played well in Belgium.
No.
You know, we didn't have one player on the pitch that played well. So why are we picking out a guy who literally had no service? Like, none whatsoever. And the same in the Livy game. I mean, like, he put the ball in the back of the net, and it's one of those decisions that could have went either way.
Well,
If
it was
he scores that
onside.
goal- yeah, but that's what I'm saying. And it's one of those ones, if it goes in the back of the net and it counts, would people have already criticised him? And this is, and like, the tough thing for Colak is, like, Morelos is on the pitch like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and he scores, and that's the killer. You know, like, you've played like the last 3 games, you've ran yourself into the ground, you've worked hard for the team, etc. And Alfie comes on the pitch and just finds himself in a great position and scores. I would love to see the two of them play. I don't think we will, but I would love to see the two of them play, because it would be interesting to see how the Belgians would react tomorrow night to having the two of them on the pitch.
Well,
The
we're
only
going-
reason I don't think that will happen is because obviously Alfie's not got 90 minutes in them, and you need somebody to come off the bench to replace him. So I think that's the reason why.
We're going to come to that in 2 minutes. But I think we have our first call. Hold on a wee second, because I've not set up the audio correctly. So, yes, hello and welcome to the Rabble.
Oh, hello there. How you doing? My name's Stevie.
Stevie, how are you?
Glasgow. Oh, I got on right away. I wasn't expecting that. Oh, well, looking forward to the game tomorrow. I've been listening to you this week. You were talking about the Kilmarnock game. Quite happy with 2-0 overall, and I think tomorrow I would take 2-0 and a 3-1. I would take 2-0 and a 3-1. I think so. It could be extra time and a bit of jitteriness.
Are you confident, no, Stevie?
Yes. I think we the home advantage, and they've not got a lot of European experience at all, their players. So I'm fairly confident they'll hit a wall of noise, and it will be really interesting. So
just before I go to the guys, one quick question: were you surprised by USG in the first leg? Were you surprised at how actually a decent team they were?
Yeah, they were quite fast on the counter attack, and I was quite surprised at their movement. They were an okay side, but we were really poor. You know, we need to players need to step up, and you know, it's a big game.
Stevie's thinking, William, a 2-0 or a 3-1, he'd be comfortable with it going to extra time. Myself, I want to be selfish. I just want to get it done in 90 minutes.
That'd be easier. It was really.
I think the big thing now with the no away goals makes it a different game. You know, I think that's one of the biggest things when you look at it. You know, we'd have been out last year against Braga with the away goal rule, and that's what can make a difference in those games. And like for me tomorrow night, like you don't need to worry about losing the goal, because you probably feel like we could score 3. Although we've maybe not looked like scoring that amount of goals this season so far, but I think that Alfredo starts, and it'll be interesting to see how they set up against Alfredo, because it's a totally different type of a game with Alfredo. Like, the crowd are up straight away, and if we manage to get an early goal, it will be interesting to see if they can crash under that, because obviously seen like sort of better teams and what Union are come to Ibrox and basically fall apart because of the atmosphere and because of that early goal.
The question, Stevie, is it going to be Alfie? Is it going to be Colak? Is it going to be both at start tomorrow?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I think you have to ask them. You know, you have to ask Morelos, how long can you play for? You know, if it comes on at the beginning and just say they did win 2-0, I know it's 11, but you know, your extra time, and then you need them then, you know, in extra time. So I would personally start with Colak and see how it goes, and then maybe leave the two of them on and bring Morelos on. Same with Kent as well. She's going to be fully fit.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the kind of Gio's game plan, you know, and what he's thinking. But trusting Gio, that's what I say.
Well, trust in Gio, Wolf. That and I think Stevie actually makes a good point. Would it not be more sensible to start with Colak, see how the game's going, and then bring Alfie on, Wolf?
That's exactly what I've been saying.
I don't listen to you normally.
No, I haven't been saying it to you. I've been saying it to people that know what they're talking about.
That's true.
Yeah, because for two reasons. First, like Stevie says, if you start with Alfie, how long's you got in him? You know. So, and there is a very good chance it might go to extra time, and we could really do with him in the extra time period. So, you know, do you leave it and bring him on after an hour or whatever? You know, the other thing as well is if we are sort of starting to flag, say we're 2-0 up, we're starting to, the game's starting to kind of flag and the place is getting a wee bit down. The very sight of Morelos on the touch. Look at the atmosphere on Saturday. As soon as Morelos went out to warm up, the place was absolutely bouncing just because he was there. I mean, I was speaking to my daughter about it earlier, and she says, "Oh, maybe bring him on at half time." I said, "No, you wouldn't bring him on at half time.
No.
And if you're bringing him on at the second half, bring him on a couple of minutes in to get the crowd reaction."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Get reaction.
That would buoy it up. I mean, for me, the very fact that the Belgians are already mentioning the atmosphere, their captain came out, I think, at the weekend and said, "We're not worried about the atmosphere. We can handle that." The fact he's saying that means it's already in their head.
Yeah.
Because they won't have played in front of anything like Ibrox. I mean, what's the biggest stadium in Belgium? 30,000 maybe? And they left maybe 30,000, which is the most they'll have played in front of. I mean, their own ground, I've seen bigger junior grounds.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, I personally wouldn't start Alfredo. I can understand if he did, but I personally wouldn't. However, conversely, I would start Ryan Kent if he's even 60%.
He's only missed one game.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say I would start Kent. Stevie, do you watch the Rabble often?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you know what I'm going to ask you.
I'm not sure yet.
Prediction, and I'll have a first goal scorer.
I'll go for 3-0 and Tavernier.
3-0 Tab. That would
So a penalty, a VAR penalty, hopefully. After that.
Do you know what? See, just a penalty to wind him up. That would do
Any sort of penalty.
do me absolutely fine. Stevie, my friend.
Like Stephen Davis to start as well. I thought you played really well.
Hold on. But I was about to let Stevie go. I was about to let him go, but he's brought up another point. See these fans, William, that know what they're talking about. It's quite frustrating. So it is. Stephen Davis got loads of plaudits against Kilmarnock. Is he a kind of experienced head, like Stevie says, William, that you bring in and you play him for the beginning?
Yeah, well, I've never, kind of hidden how much I think, Stephen Davis is one of the best Rangers players I've seen in my time. I just think Stephen on his day is a fantastic footballer. I suppose the only worry with Stephen is obviously they're going to look after him throughout the season, and there will be times where he will miss a couple of games. But you know what? The biggest game of our season is tomorrow night. You know what I mean? So I think he'll have to put his best 11. And look, I mean, I agree with what Stephen's saying there, and Wolf. It's a huge call for Gio. If he starts Alfie and he only gets 60 minutes out of him and it's still 0-0 at that point, it's a big call to then have to take him off for Colak. Whereas if Colak starts and maybe you're 1-0 up with half an hour to go and you can look at the bench and you can see Morelos there, instantly the crowd is just going to burst into life again. And that last half an hour could put them under ridiculous amounts of pressure. But thankfully, I'm not the manager. And I don't need to make that decision. Yeah. But I mean, like, you look at, even just looking at the comments here, you've got all these guys saying, like, we should start Morelos, then like, the other half are saying, no, he should come off the bench. Or you've got other guys saying, well, like, should Kent come in? Or should it be Matondo that plays? Do you still play Lawrence and Tillman? I mean, this is the problem the manager's got now. He's got
a good problem, though, William, is it not?
Yeah, it's to a point, but like the problem in football is if you have one bad performance, somebody wants you out the team, and then like you don't get back in the team, and like this is where the manager's going to have to look at it. Like, do you play like the new left back, or do you put Barisic back in the team because he's a bit taller, a bit stronger? But then, what's happening at centre back? Is Sands going to stay in there, or is like sort of Davies ready?
We're going to come to that, William. We're going to come to that.
No, I'm just saying.
All my points.
But like, this is the difficulty the manager's got, and realistically, I would say that every decision, like tomorrow night, has to be the right one, because we probably need to have as good a 90 minutes as we'll have in this season if we are going to go through against this team. That's the reality of where we are.
I agree. Stevie, thank you so much for the phone call, and make sure you phone back.
Will do.
Thank
All right, have
you.
a good night, guys.
Cheers.
Stevie, good night.
Just shows you we've got knowledgeable viewers, by the way.
I know they're more knowledgeable than you. That's a good thing.
Everybody's more knowledgeable than me. That Stephen Davis thought never even came into my head. Do you know that? For everybody watching on YouTube, I've set a like target of 200. Right now, I think we have 190 watching. So if everybody watching, I know not everybody's on YouTube watching, but if everybody on YouTube right now watching hits that like button, then we'll get very, very close to that 200 like target. Thank you very much. Right, well, tomorrow night, William kind of touched on it. The most important game of the season so far. Just how important is it for us to win tomorrow night? And I mean that from all aspects, from getting closer into the Champions League, the financial aspect for Gio, for the players. Just how big is it?
It's absolutely vital because we don't want to be known as a team that always choke the qualifiers. I mean, we got put out last year by a team we should have beat. I mean, Malmo, we should have beat Malmo. We blew it against Malmo.
Mm-hmm.
We were absolutely rotten last Tuesday in Belgium. We need to win tomorrow, but winning is not enough. We need to win enough to put us through. I mean, we could win 1-0 and go out, win 2-1 and go out. We need to win and win well to go through. And it's absolutely critical. I mean, even if we beat them, we've still got another stage to go with either PSV Eindhoven or Monaco, which will be even harder than this.
Yeah.
You know, but even if we fall at that stage, there's an extra £5 million just for getting past the game tomorrow night. So if you want to look at that in isolation, it's worth tomorrow night's worth £5 million.
Yeah,
right? That's before you look at the revenue we'll make from a home game next Tuesday, which is another probably £2 million at the price they'll charge us. That's before we get into the Champions League, if you're looking at it financially. Mm-hmm. But for me, the biggest thing is we don't want to become the team. I mean, we laugh at that lot across the city because they haven't won a knockout game since Jesus was a boy. And they haven't, right? I mean, the last time they won a knockout game, I'm not even sure Demi was born, and she's 19. You know what I mean?
The last time they won a knockout game, I believe, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not obsessed with them. I think it was 2003, 2004.
Well, she was born in 2000. She was born in 2003. There you go.
We've been to 2 European Cup finals since the last time they won a knockout game. So,
I don't want to be known as Rangers be known as the team that can't win Champions League qualifiers, that bottle all the qualifiers against. If we go through this and get put out by, for argument's sake, Monaco. Monaco's a good side.
Yeah.
It's 50-50 if we beat them, right? A team from Belgium who nobody's heard of, who are in Europe for the first time in 40 years after having charged through the league and finished second in the first year back up. We should be taking teams like that to the cleaners. The money that we've got, the squad that we've got, the players that we've got, the manager that we've got. We should be taking them at the cleaners. And I think we will tomorrow night. Because last week was just embarrassing. For me, the way their bench reacted, I don't know if it came across on the TV when they scored the first goal last week. Their entire bench was on the pitch. Every single one of them. You think they scored the last minute winner. And it was halfway through the first half they scored the goal. That's how big a goal it was for them, that first goal. Because they didn't expect to get anything off us.
Right, well, if you want to give your thoughts on tomorrow night, because I would love to hear them, because we had Stevie on, and he was better. I might actually look at giving him a job because he was better than both Wolf and William. So if you want to get your points across, 0141 628 72.
Sorry, Martin, before you carry on, it would appear that Demi's watching. She's just texted me and said thanks for the mention. So, hi, sweetheart, how are you?
There you go. She looked after me in Blackpool, I've got to say. So, because you just kept walking away and leaving me. You know what I mean?
Too many people wanted a piece of me. That was what it was.
No, Demi was the only one that was talking to me. You know what I mean? It's Wolf's quite ignorant, William, when you go away with him. Everybody talks to him.
No,
I spoke to Wolf quite happily in Denmark quite a few times. We even went to the supermarket and stuff like that. No, he was fine with me.
Oh, friends. So yeah, I mean, I need to ask because I don't know and I really should know. If the unthinkable happens and we don't win, or we win but it's not enough tomorrow, I believe that we go straight into the group stages of the Europa League.
We do.
So if we get to the playoff and we don't go through, do we go straight into the group stages of the Europa League?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's no difference if we don't win apart from the financial aspect tomorrow, William.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think Will's pointed that out. Yeah, it's purely financial. Clearly, you don't want to get knocked out either round. You want to make the Champions League. I mean, that's the reality of what we wanted to do last season. We wanted to win the league title and make it straight into the Champions League. So the fact we finished second, the fact we're in 2 qualifying rounds, nothing changes. You know, I agree with Wolf. I guess the first leg for me, it was just an abomination, really. When you watch the game back, we were obviously at the B team game that night, and we were, sort of sitting, kind of, getting updates and stuff like that. And you get back home and you kind of watch the game back, and you can't believe how poor we were. And I think that was the shock. I know sometimes you get caught out early in the season in European games, but that was just appalling. I just didn't see it coming. I didn't think we would be that poor. I didn't think we would create so little. We gave away a really poor first goal, something that we should have defended. The second goal is obviously another matter. We could argue about that to the end of time with the whole VAR decision, but I just feel like if we can get an early goal and rattle them tomorrow, we could go and score maybe 3 or 4. But the reality is we need to go out and do it on the pitch. We need to go out and show we can do it. And it's all down to how we start the game. I feel like we do have to score early. We do have to put them on the back foot. Because if we give them even the slightest inch with the pace they've got on the counter-attack, you could get caught out. And the worst thing that could happen to us is go 1-0 down. That's the one thing we just can't afford to happen tomorrow night.
Can I just say as well, if you're watching this and you are the boss of a company or you work at a company and you're looking to get your name out there, you maybe want to sponsor something, believe it or not, right? And I don't know if I've told you this before, William, right? We get right about 100,000 views a month. Did you know that?
No.
Well,
I probably should actually know that, given that I actually do go and onto YouTube and try and work things out. But as I said to you before, when it comes to like technology and a lot of these things, it kind of passes over me a little bit. That's why you're here, mate. You're the technological genius.
I am. I know how to press open. So yeah, if you want to reach between 80 and 110,000 people a month and you fancy sponsoring something, then get in touch, rangersrabble@gmail.com. There you go. I'm just in full salesman mode tonight. Absolute full salesman mode.
I've noticed that.
Right, so what's Gio learned then, Wolf, from this Belgian team? How do you think he's going to approach it tomorrow? Is it just simply an attacking team and we just go for them for minute one?
That's what I would do. But like William, I'm not the manager of the Rangers Football Club. So I think the problem we've got is we have to go for it, but we need to keep the back door locked.
Yeah.
Losing a goal doesn't really change what we have to do, because whatever happens, we have to score 3 goals. And if we lose a goal, we score 3, lose a goal, it's extra time. And I'd be fairly confident we're taking the extra time with the backing of the crowd and what I would imagine is their superior fitness, given the facilities we've got compared to the facilities they've got. But he's got to go. He can't go as defensive as he did last week. I mean, last week we effectively had five or six defensive players at the back. So
that's what shocked me more than anything, Wolf. The fact that we went that defensive.
Yeah. Well, all the Belgians did for me is they looked at it and went, "Well, there's nothing coming through the middle here." So all they did was shut down the wings. And if they shut down the wings, we've got no service to the striker. That's why Colak got none of the ball, because we couldn't go wide, and we didn't have any creativity to go down the middle. That's why I would start Stephen Davis, because he can pick the pass. He can break the lines. And okay, I don't think at that intensity Davis will last the full game. But then you bring somebody on, perhaps bring Matondo on for him, depending on a lot of it depends on if Ryan Kent starts for me. But I'm sure we'll get to the team later.
Yeah, well, no. Do you know what? We'll jump right into the midfield now, William, and I'll come to you. Stephen Davis aside, obviously John Lundstrom done the press conference, seemed very fired up. I don't know so much if it was USG having a dig or the captain, or he's just coming out trying to, a bit of bravado. His team won 2-0, blah, 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 blah. But John Lundstrom, and it's press conferences, you take what you take from press conferences, but he looked up for it.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know. It's possible maybe things were said after the game last week. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we're not privy to a lot of the stuff that goes on the pitch or in the dressing rooms or behind the scenes. It's possible maybe he's annoyed by maybe the manner of like the way they celebrated the win. I don't know. I mean, I'm only guessing that. But yeah, look, he certainly seemed like he was up for it. And that's a good thing for our point of view, because John Lundstrom, when he wants it, I think as we seen last season, can go on to a different level. And that's the kind of player we need tomorrow night. I mean, like, Wolf is spot on with Davis. Like, it's interesting. It's like, how do you keep like the three in the midfield? Because obviously, I think it's fair to say we all expect like sort of Lundstrom to start. If Davis does start, then Lawrence probably has to play in that midfield three as well, because one of them has to at least get forward.
Yeah.
And then if you're playing the three, say it is like Colak that's through the middle and Kent's on the other side.
Has to be Matondo then?
Well, that's what I feel like. Does that mean that like sort of Tillman goes wide, or do we have to play Matondo, or does Wright start? Like, these are all the decisions as we've pointed out. Like, the manager's got a good squad of players there, but he just has to get it spot on. And he probably just needs a reaction for one or two players for last week as well. It'd be interesting if he went to one or two of them for last week and says, see if I put you out there again, am I going to get the right reaction? Because clearly he never got that reaction last week. And whether that was down to his setup, because we did seem quite defensive. And I don't know, maybe this is just me because I've watched Rangers for a long time, a bit like Wolf. I don't really like his going too defensive away from home. I don't think it's really our style. I'm not saying you can't have like sort of two holding midfield players, but you can still get in the front foot. You can still like sort of control a game. You can still create chances. We never really did any of that. And I think that's, the worry for last week. So I feel as though it's important, as Will said, to keep the back door shut, but you also want to create enough chances, because if you don't create enough chances, you don't score goals. I know that's a silly thing to say because everybody knows that, but that's been our problem so far this season. We haven't created, even at the weekend there, we didn't exactly create a huge amount of opportunities to score goals, and we probably need a good few tomorrow night, just to bring me a chance of winning the tie.
Right, 0141 628 7237 is the number for you to phone in and get your point across. We've only had one caller so far, so I want some people to phone in. Come on, phone in. If you disagree, if you agree, if you think I'm just a fantastic host and one of the best looking guys ever and you want to phone in and tell me, I'm happy for you to do that as well. I keep meaning to go back to Tillman, but comments keep coming in. But I'm going to go back to Tillman before I forget, Wolf. Probably get the highest praise against Kilmarnock. But as William says there, if you're playing Davis, if you're playing Lundstrom, is it Lawrence? Is it Tillman? Does Tillman play out right? If Tillman plays out right, you lose the pace with Matondo. Does he start left? Do you bring Kent on? Do you start Kent? I mean, what do you do?
That's the decision for the manager. That's the decision for the manager, as we've been saying. But I mean, if Kent, as I said earlier, if Kent's 60%, Kent starts without a question.
Yeah,
without question. I would try and find a space for Tillman in the team.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I mean, whether you
where then? Right. So where?
I don't know whether you can play Tillman in midfield and push Lawrence out onto the right hand side.
Are we agreed? Are we agreed though, Wolf, that Lawrence must start, or is that not a given?
He's not. No, it doesn't. There's not. I don't think he must start. If Kent doesn't play, Lawrence is nailed on. I think.
Yeah.
If Kent starts, Lawrence might not start. It depends what he goes on the right hand side. Because I'd play Tillman in the 10, if you like, to try and sound all hip and trendy and know what I'm talking about.
4-2-3-1.
I'd put Lawrence out on the right, but he might decide to go for Matondo out there. He might put Scott Wright out there for his pace. The problem with that is you get no end product because Scott Wright's final ball's not great. So he might leave him on the bench. It's a good conundrum to have, but it's one he has.
Changed the team about 3 times. I mean, that's just like a 2-minute chat there, if you will, from we've changed the team 3 times.
But that's obviously going. But that's going by William. If Davis starts, if Davis doesn't start, you could have a midfield 3: Lundstrom, Tillman, Lawrence.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, the manager genuinely has that many options, and this is why we keep kind of going back to he needs to get it right. Like, he needs to pick the right team that's Still going to protect, the back two, because the full backs will be aggressive, because that's just how we play. But we also have to get forward and create chances.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with Wolf. I just think we've got to find a way of getting Tillman on the ball more. I know it's early on, and I'm not trying to jump the gun with him, but to me, he just looks like he's a step ahead of some of the other players. And well, that's just because it's early in the season, and maybe he's just at that level quicker than maybe some of the other players. But to me, he just looks like somebody who has that little bit more about him. And on a European night, it's those kind of guys you need to step up and be influential, and you be the difference maker. And that's why, Rangers signed him to buy him. That's why they've got like a chance of purchasing him next summer, and this is the sort of nights that we need them to stand up and be counted.
Defence, Wolf. I'm guessing that we're going to continue with McLaughlin in goals. I don't see why you would change that. Tav, well said, Wolf. Tav right back, Goldson right centre back. The only questions are left centre back and left back. So we'll start with left back, Wolf. Yilmaz or Barisic?
I think he'll start Barisic.
Why?
Because he's bigger, which probably means he's slightly stronger. Because Yilmaz, there doesn't look to be an awful lot of him. It doesn't mean he looks like a terrific football player, but it doesn't look as if there's an awful lot of him. I think he'll start with Barisic. And as for centre back in beside him, I've got a feeling he'll stick with Sands because he seems to like Sands, which would beg the question: why did we bother signing Davis? Or Davies, or whatever we're supposed to pronounce
Davis.
Davies. Yeah.
Just on that point then, William, as you keep bringing up comments every 2 seconds and blinding me. Yilmaz, if he's too small, don't buy him. If he's too small, you don't think he's going to work in Europe, don't buy him. But we've bought him. So if he doesn't play him, it's simply a case of, if he doesn't play him, it's simply a case of he doesn't think he's up to match speed yet. But has Borna shown enough at the start of the season that you'd be comfortable with Borna starting tomorrow?
Yeah, look, I still think Borna's a very good footballer. We're still talking about a guy that in the main played most of the European games last season for us at left back. So, yeah, look, it wouldn't be a problem if Borna has to start. I mean, like, the reason I put some of the sort of tweets out there or the sort of comments is it's interesting. Everybody's got a different idea of who should play. You'll have some guys that say, oh, well, we need to start him and we don't need to start him and he's maybe not going to be the right player. And this is why we all love the game. Because you could sit in the bus tomorrow on the way to the game with other 2 guys and you'll argue over who's going to start. But the reality is it doesn't really matter because there's only really one guy that's going to make that decision. And that's why, the manager gets paid a lot of money. So whether he gets that right or wrong is going to mean it's a very big night for Rangers if we qualify and get through to the next round, or it's a catastrophe and a huge amount of criticism will come the manager's way. And this is where like the tough side of the game comes for the manager. If he plays, the young Turk at left back and somebody scores for a set play and it's somebody that's a foot taller than him, and these are all the decisions the manager needs to get spot on. And nobody said it was easy being a football manager, and I can honestly sit here right now and say I don't know how many people could sit and predict our starting 11.
I think it's impossible to predict the starting 11, but you don't sign somebody for 3-4 million. I can't remember exactly how much it was we signed him for. If you're worried about playing him in a game because of his height shouldn't come into it.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think it's just that as a concern. We're still talking about the lad. I mean, he obviously did an interview, so he speaks like very little English. So you've obviously got a guy who's come in. He's obviously played a very small amount of minutes since signing recently, so he's not had a chance to play a lot of games. Is it easier just to put Borna in there because he knows, Goldson, Tavernier, he knows like the link up playing that side of the pitch. He also knows if Kent is up the pitch or it's Matondo to get the ball to him, maybe where he needs to go because he's been working with him a little bit longer. Just all these little things that the manager's got to work through to make that decision. Does he go for guys who did the job for him last year? Like, does Glenn Kamara come back in? And does he play the Davis role? And these are all the difficulties the manager's got to to think about just to put out the starting 11. But I think, as Wolf touched on a really good point earlier, is the bench is just as important as the starting 11, because the guys that come off the bench tomorrow night need to come on and make a big impact. So yet again, you've got to maybe look at it and say, right, if Alfie can't play more than, say, 45 to 60 minutes, is it better to have him on the bench to come on and make that impact? Or is it better to start him because he could make an impact and get us that early goal? And what if you start Kent and then he breaks down again? Like, who have you got on the bench that's going to come on and impact the game in the same manner? These are like the 1,000 questions that you could go through. Just
you only start Kent if he's fit. You know what I mean? You don't start him if he's not fit. If he's fit enough to start, Kent starts.
But like, there's
no-brainer for me.
Yeah, but like, there's different like ways of saying how fit somebody is. Somebody can be fit, but they're no ready to play 90 minutes. With Ryan, I feel with Ryan, when he's at his best, he does a lot of great work defensively, just like he does a lot of work going forward. But if he's not 100% at it, is it right for him to start? Yeah, it probably is, because Ryan is so influential in our team, and what he's done for us in Europe has been huge. And he's the sort of guy that score or create a goal, as we've seen a lot of times last season. I mean, I thought the game in Belgrade was one of our best with Ryan Kent. On that night, he was the guy that made the difference because he got the goal. And that's what we need tomorrow night. We need him to be that player, just like we need that for Tillman and Morelos and Colak and Davis and anybody else that starts. That's the reality of it.
Big pressure, Wolf, on not just Gio, but all the players as well, because like you said, we don't want to become known as a team who can't do qualifiers. So big pressure tomorrow on the manager and players.
Yeah, of course there is. I mean, all the players we've signed this window have all said, "Oh, well, great to come to a big club. Looking forward to playing in the Champions League." So I mean, most of them have signed because our reputation in Europe's gone through the roof with what we've done the last 4 seasons, getting to the Europa League final in Seville last year. That's really put us in a different stratosphere in Europe, back to where we should be. And a lot of these players looking at that saying, fancy a bit of this. And they've all come out and said, hopefully we can be playing in the Champions League. We've come here to play Champions League. Well, the Champions League dream goes out the window if they get it wrong tomorrow. Yeah. So it's a massive game for every single one. But they know that. They won't need any of us to tell them that. I mean, I'm sure they'll be watching. I mean, the team talk tomorrow will be Gio. We'll just show them this podcast. That's what they'll be shown during their meal tomorrow before the game, and that'll be them fired up and ready to go.
One player we forgot to mention, and I just seen his name mentioned in the comments, Willie, is Fashion Sakala.
Yeah.
I've not heard anything, but is he injured?
Well, from what I saw some of the tweets earlier on, I've not really been on social media all that much today. I was quite busy doing a few other things, but I think it said that Fashion is available for selection. Yeah. So, but yeah, again, I mean, that's
is it telling though that Gio's not really used them this season so far? I say we're like 2 games in, but you know what I mean.
Look, I think my worry for Fashion now is the same worry I had before the kind of the transfer window started. I just worried about how many games he was going to play. And I think that's my only concern with Fash. There's no doubt when he comes on to the game, whether that's from the bench or he starts, he does seem to cause an impact. He does seem to be involved in things within the game. He's obviously scored quite a few goals last season. He's obviously got pace to burn, which is something you're always looking for, especially away from home in Europe. I just worry that he's not going to play a lot of football this year. And I don't know if the club were to receive an offer that they would potentially take it. But that's only from my point of view. I mean, I don't know like where Gio sees him playing. Does he see him playing as a 9? Does he see him playing off the wing? But then we've added some width to the team this year. So like, how far down the pecking order is he in terms of the starting 11? To me, it looks like at most the times he's probably going to be on the bench.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was lost in some Twitter comments there. They seem
talking about the bench. Well,
they seem to be only coming through at my phone for some reason and not on the screen. Just very quickly, Nicholas Moore, game only on Rangers TV tomorrow. As far as I was aware, it was on Premier. Is it Premier Sports?
It's on Premier Sports. It's also available on Rangers TV everywhere except Belgium.
Everywhere except Belgium. There you go.
Well, it's available in the UK on Rangers TV.
There you go, Mr. Wolf. Thank you very much. Sorry, I interrupted you.
All right. Well, I was just wondering whether talking about the bench and the fact that we need it to be strong. Obviously, we need bodies on it. Do you think Charlie McCann will be on the bench tomorrow? Because I know you boys have been watching him in the B team.
No.
I think the problem with Charlie is he would have to be a registered player within the 25. But it's obviously different with Alex and Leon. They don't need to be registered because of their age.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like with Charlie, he would have to be. So unless
Right,
we actually had
I
him
wasn't sure about that. With him being a youth player, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, because he's a non-Scot is obviously the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have to be registered as a player who could be on the bench. I think that's why there's a better chance of guys like, well, let's say we were short of numbers, it would be easy to put like an Adam Devine on the bench.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Alex or Leon. I mean, I would imagine Leon will be in the bench anyway. But yeah, like for Charlie, I mean, unless Charlie's going to be close to a start, I don't know. I don't think Rangers would register him for the Champions League, given the amount of players we've obviously got at the club at the moment. I mean, I don't even know if we can register every single player from our squad if you look at it right now. I mean, there's some guys who are going to miss out. I mean, I'd imagine like Katic probably isn't even registered.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine
But William, is Charlie not getting close to the limit of games he can play for the B team?
So yeah, again, like we're not too sure if the rules have changed this year to last year. They've not really been made like sort of freely available. I think like last season there was...
It was 5 games, wasn't it? Last season?
I think the top was 5 games and then you couldn't. It doesn't look like this season that's in play. But yeah, again, there seems to have been changes for last season that haven't really come out in like the social media kind of stratosphere or on the papers and stuff like that. But I think the good thing for Charlie is he just needs to keep playing games. And at the moment, that obviously looks like it's going to be for the B team, which I know from some people's point of view isn't ideal because they would like to see the kid playing because they've seen, sort of good glimpses of Charlie. Obviously, his goal against Blackpool. But I guess when you see the depth of that midfield now, it's actually quite scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's why guys Stephen Kelly can't even get anywhere near that squad. And I've always thought Stephen's a fabulous midfield player.
We're going to actually just slightly touch on the B team. We're also going to touch on the Managerials, which I know is a sore subject for some people. And we're also going to touch on a ridiculous article I've seen about Rangers and Celtic moving down south again. It's never going to happen. But we'll touch on that as well. If you want to get your thoughts across, please do phone in 01416 628 7237. If you phone now, you will get on now. We've only had one caller. We're 52 minutes in. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you fancy joining as a member, as Nicholas Moore in the comments as Ofra Hill has, as many other people have, then please do think about that. We've got 2 tiers. There's no difference in the tiers. It's just whatever you can afford. And as soon as we reach, and David Christie as well, as soon as we reach 70 members, we will start giving you member content. We already do 5 or 6 shows a week. So we'll be doing even more member content for you as well. Right, we've talked about the game long enough, Wolf. Final thoughts before I get your predictions. Obviously, you were over in Belgium. You watched the game very, very closely. Is there anything from Union, USG, whatever you want to call them, that worries you about tomorrow? Is there any player that stands out? Is it a decent manager? Did they set up well? Is there anything at all that can cause us problems tomorrow?
First of all, I've got an apology to make. It's only on Rangers TV. It's not on Premier Sports.
It's not on Premier Sports. Only Rangers TV.
Just looking at the Premier Sports TV schedule now. It's not listed. Nicholas said David Christie, said in the comments, it's not on Premier. He's right. It's not on Premier Sports.
Oh, well, there you go. I thought I seen it advertised.
So did I thought it was as well, but it's not listed in the schedule.
I really should know that. So the Rangers game is only on Rangers TV tomorrow night.
Yep. And back to your question, I have got no idea how good they are because we didn't lay a glove on them. And any one of the 3 of us could have been in goal for them last week. I've got no idea if the goalkeeper's any good. I've got no idea if the defenders are any good. They're quite quick and forward. We know that because we saw that. But apart from that, I haven't got a clue. Speaking to some of their supporters before and after the game.
Yeah.
They were surprised after the game they were surprised how poor we were. And before the game, they just wanted to try and stay in the tie.
See, that's the problem for me. See, like when Wolf says that, it's a bit like, I think when we went to Michelin that time and we were standing outside the ground, and most of the Michelin fans were saying that they thought Rangers would come and win, whereas when we were actually outside the ground saying, well, we'd seen how good a team Michelin were. So on the night when we actually went there and won in Denmark, that was probably a bit of a surprise from our side. So they've obviously been shocked at how poor we were. And maybe we just gave them too much respect in that first leg. Obviously we don't know what the tactical setup was for the manager or how he wanted certain players to play. Obviously you can look at the game and you can dissect it and look at the positioning of players and things like that. But at the end of the day, we just didn't show up last Tuesday. And there's no excuse for not showing up in a game like that, which is absolutely massive for our entire season. So like tomorrow night, it's time that the players, step up and show exactly why the club spent money on, I put like 7 or 8 players this summer, So it's a huge night for the football club, and I'm sure Gio knows that. I'm sure the players now know that, and it's just monumental. I mean, I'm buzzing for the game right now. Like the game can't come soon enough, and for me, that's like the best feeling. I want Ibrox to be rocking for the first minute. I want an early goal. I would love 2 early goals for us, because it would be interesting to see how their mentality changes, like within the game. Because Will pointed out earlier on, for a lot of these guys, I mean, I think they actually had 2 players that played in like English, like League One or something like that were in their squad. So, if we get that early goal, and like, what Ibrox can be like in a European night, if we get going, like it could be a quick fire 2 goals, and then like the game just totally changes, because the crowd are up, the game is like sort of level on aggregate. You've then maybe got, say, 60 minutes of that game left. It's like there's so many permutations to every game, but I don't know. I just feel like tomorrow night we're going to come out all guns blazing.
Give me a prediction, Molly. A prediction and a first goal scorer. Then you're sounding positive.
Yeah, look, I do feel like we'll go through. I think we'll do it in 90 minutes. I think we could win like 3 or 4. And I'm not just saying that because I want Rangers to win. I genuinely think at Ibrox, under the lights, in a European night, these are special nights. And, anybody that experienced that last season, whether that was the Braga game, the Dortmund game, the Leipzig game, you can sometimes see, even in these top players' eyes, they get a little bit startled in the headlights. So if we can do that, to Union tomorrow night, then I just think that early goal is absolutely monstrous. If we can get that early goal, I just think it's massive game on.
I think Wolf's got those energy-saving light bulbs, because I think he's just switched his light on and it actually looks darker. I don't know how that's working.
It's not great. The light in the room's not great.
Wolf, prediction and first goal scorer.
I'm with Billy. I honestly think we'll do it in 90 minutes. I hope so, because I'm working on Wednesday morning and it's a fair drive home for me. So, if the team turn up and the support turn up, I think we'll have it done within an hour. I think we'll be 3 up within an hour, and that'll be a job done.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark. Before we move off of this subject,
are
you aware who the referee is?
No.
Right, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name because he's a Greek, but he's the guy that sent John Lundstrom off against Allocations last year.
Oh, Jesus.
There we go.
Very on that night, wasn't he?
Yeah, listen, somebody just tried to phone in there and it cut off. My apologies. If you phone back, I will bring you straight on. I don't even want to start talking about referees, because you get a bad referee and it can just totally ruin the full game for both teams, but it can totally ruin the full game. Well, 46,000 now members of Managerial.
Yeah.
Scary.
I don't want to go into Managerial because I know a lot of people aren't a fan of it. But before I do that, I'm going to bring in this phone call. There's something going on with my audio. It keeps switching the thing. So there we go. Hello, welcome to the Rabble. And could you turn it off in the background?
Sure, sorry. Is that better?
That's much better. Who's that?
All right, my name's Jock. I'm phoning from Mary Hill.
How you doing?
All right, mate.
What's your point in the night?
So I'm phoning in and all I can detect so far is doom and gloom. Surely tomorrow night, this is a game against Belgium's second division team. This is a 6-0 guarantee win. I don't see what the
what the need for any doubt is. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
I think the doubt.
Papers, not just your podcast.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing in the papers, what I've seen in Daily Record comments, what I've seen in different websites, it's like people are trying to treat this as if this is a normal European game, as if it is against PSV or Monaco or a European team, whereas this is against, nobody can pronounce the name. I know that's not meaning much nowadays for how far east we now go as well, but this should surely be a formality for Rangers. I mean, I heard one player saying that he can't wait for tomorrow night. Surely they're all at that, waiting to redeem themselves after the farce the week before.
I think that's where the trepidation comes in a little bit, though, just because of how poor the first leg performance was and how much we've left ourselves to do.
And then nobody did mention Sakala there either. Like, is he?
I've no idea.
Gio said today in press conference he's fit, he's available, and he'll play. So him and Kent are going to play tomorrow as well.
Do you genuinely see Sakala starting, because he hasn't really featured?
I think he'll start. I think looking at the way Gio spoke, I think he's going to start. I think Kent's going to start. I think Alfie's going to start as well. I think they're going for like a 4-5-6-0 game, man.
And listen, I would be jumping up and down like a 5-year-old child with a teddy bear if that was the score.
Standards have dropped, and do you know, I think like the fact that you played Frankfurt, you've done all that. I'm a Partick Thistle supporter. Do you know, I think the fact that you've done all that with Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund, that why is all this? I don't get where this doubt has came from and how. Surely it's a 6-0 game tomorrow. The players, well, then again, it's just coming from the fans. The fans are what nervous. The players all seem to be ready for it anyway.
It's different. It's different for supporters. And William, I'll take Jock's point to you, because you have been probably the most positive, William. The trepidation just coming for the fact that, you know, we've played okay in the first two opening league games of the season, but we had that horror show away in Belgium. So do you think, William, that's maybe where a wee bit of trepidation's coming in? And you're on mute, by the way. You're on mute.
I think after last season, there was obviously a lot of confidence going into the European games. And obviously, the first European game of this season, you take a bit of a sort of mental hit, don't you? Maybe there was too much like confidence going into that first game. Maybe we shouldn't have been like overconfident. Maybe that was an issue. But certainly in this second leg, you know, we need to obviously show our form of last season in this game. So the games that we played against Dortmund, the Ibrox, Leipzig, the Braga games, even looking at some of the group stage games, you know, where we played some decent stuff at times, we need to show that level of performance tomorrow night. And as I said earlier, you know, if we can get that goal, that early goal, it certainly changes the whole game.
I think that an early goal settles the nerves, and that's why it should be looking for like a 6-0 win here. I don't think this is like against any quality opposition compared to what's been faced just within the last 12 months. It's not as if you're going far back. Tomorrow night's a night for a player like Scott Wright to get a hat trick. Tomorrow night's a night for players like Sakala to get confidence built, like for the squad to actually grow. Like this is what if they stumble tomorrow night, then there's something majorly wrong. But I can't see it happening at all. I think it's like a 6-0 win, and onwards to PSV or Monaco, where it will be a challenge.
Jock, I'm the type of guy, see if Rangers were 5-0 up with 2 minutes to play, I'd still be nervous. That's the kind of guy I am. I'm one of the guys, you know what I mean?
But it's not just on this podcast. I have seen it on every other podcast, and I'm just like, I'm pretty stunned by it. I'm not understanding why that there's any doubt at all. I thought this is a formality. This looks like a 6. I mean, you've seen United AK's Alkmaar game. I can't pronounce that either, but that was a fantastic result. And they're better quality opposition than what Rangers are going to face tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So it should. I don't think there's anything to fear tomorrow. I think it's going to be a walkover tomorrow, man. And then I think like the next game's an actual game of football where it is actual. There could be a bit of doubt, a bit of I go on.
No, I'm saying that's I 100% agree with you. If we do get through tomorrow, in case you shouted me, when we get through tomorrow, I think PSV's who we will likely play, and they've made a fantastic start to their season and they look really good. But I have to ask you, as a Thistle fan, how is the 1400 Rangers players getting on?
What does this mean?
You've took quite a few of our youngsters on loan. I'm just wondering if you're watching Thistle every week, how are they getting on?
Right, well, I don't know then. I'm just mean in general, I'm a Thistle fan. Don't know much this season at all. I've not been to any games yet. I'm not back up in Glasgow yet, man. I'll be there on the second week in September, and then that's me back up the road. So I don't know about that yet, but I'll phone back and I'll let you know.
Absolutely. Listen, thank you very much for the call. Thank you for being more positive than me, by the way. I appreciate that.
No bother, man.
And
enjoy yourself.
Make sure you phone back in.
I will do, mate.
Cheers, Jock.
See you later, lads. Bye.
Yeah, mate.
I don't think we've necessarily been that negative. have we?
I think it depends how the papers put things out as well. Like, you know,
you don't listen to papers,
headlines that you think to yourself, well, I'm not really so sure I agree with that. I mean, I think like any game at Ibrox, you know, as a Rangers fan, you should always believe you're going to win the game. You know, our home record overall has been very good. And, all right, you can have the odd blip here or there at home, of course you can. But, like, tomorrow night, the place just needs to be electric. Every fan needs to be standing. I know Rangers want to like to stand up. Every fan needs to be on their feet. The place needs to have an atmosphere for the first minute. And yet again, if we get that early goal, as we keep saying, it just changes the whole tie. Because they'll maybe not know what to do at 1-0 down after potentially 10 minutes. You know, do they just sit in deep? Do they defend their box? Do they come out? If they open up the space, can we hurt them more? So there's so many things that can happen in the game.
Well, was Jock right on the phone there? Should we begin into this game thinking, no, we're going to go and hammer this mob? We're much better. We've just made it to a European final. This is the first leg was a blip. We will show how good we are tomorrow. We will win this comfortably.
As supporters, we should be. The team can't go in with that attitude because then they'll start getting sloppy. The problem that I've got is it's the old muscle memory thing. I mean, in my lifetime, you know, you go back to 92, 93 when we should have got to the first Champions League final.
That's Marseille's fault, but
yeah, we effectively got to the semi-final, and then we played Sparta Prague first European game, got knocked out. Then 2008, we get to Manchester, get beat by Zenit, great run to the final. We then play Kaunas, get beat by Kaunas. Now I know both of those defeats were towards the end of the second leg, and the second leg was away, so it's slightly different to this. But that's still in the back of my mind that we've had glorious failure after the last two really good European runs. Yeah. And okay, we can't go out this time because we're guaranteed group stage football, but it's still in the back of my mind of we could probably run this close, and right at the end something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, look, Graham is making that point. Look, Jock's right. If our players perform like they can, we should go through and no bother, William.
Yeah, look, I think like the mentality of the players should be that we can still get through this tie. But like as well said, it's trying to have that happy medium. You don't want to be overconfident, but you want to be confident enough to believe in yourself you can get through. And I'm sure yet again, you know, tomorrow there'll probably be a few bits in the paper where maybe some of the Union players have got a few comments to make, and you know, maybe it's the old school way where you used to have your wee board up in the dressing room and you pin a couple of the wings up there, and as the players are, you know, leaving the dressing room before kick-off, you just make sure that the players are aware of what the opposition thought of you. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a huge part of the game. It's always gave me the fear when like our players like used to speak and like the week ahead in Old Firm game, because you're sitting going, no, like, don't say that. We don't need stuff like that before the game. But yeah, look, there has been some comments made by some of their players, and I'm sure that will definitely get our players going for sure.
Well, John Lundstrom said in the press conference today that the players are all aware of the comments that they've been making. So, well, he's right. Hopefully it does fire them on. Because if our players are mentally attuned, as I said earlier, the crowd have got to back them from minute one. We've got to get right behind them from minute one to spur them on and to hopefully put the fear of God into the Belgians. And if they're up for it, there's no reason we shouldn't be winning by 4 or 5.
Oh, for a whole good point about the heat 30 degrees. Will the heat be a factor tomorrow at all? Because it is meant to be a scorch.
Was it not talking about Belgium though? Was it not quite hot in Belgium?
The point was the heat in Belgium last week.
The heat in Belgium. Is it not going to be really, really warm tomorrow? Is there not meant to be some kind of heat wave tomorrow?
It It won't be as hot tomorrow as it was in Belgium.
Not as hot as it was in Belgium,
Yes.
obviously.
Honestly, Martin, it was ridiculous. The heat in Belgium last Tuesday was absolutely ridiculous. Even after the game, it was crazy hot. Even after the game, for 11 o'clock at night, it was ridiculously warm.
And look, Stephen actually made a good point here. That's another thing in our favour. The Mora, they've not seen the real Rangers play, which I suppose that's a very, very good point. Right, back to the Managerial, well, 46,000 plus, which is more than the amount of season tickets. Obviously, I think there's 45,000 season tickets. Putting aside our feelings towards Managerial, whether you're for or against, to have 46,000 memberships, one of the biggest in Europe, is some achievement.
It is some achievement, but it would be nice to know how many of those are only members solely to be on the season ticket waiting list. Because to be on the season ticket waiting list, you have to be a Managerial member, which is quite clever.
Yeah.
There's also going to be a number of people that are Managerial members specifically to try and get European away tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I've got no doubt that they did away with the travel club and rolled it into the Managerial so that people that only go to European away games due to the location would buy Managerials rather than just pay travel club membership.
Yeah.
So it's a phenomenal amount of people to be in a reward scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if you even a quick look at social media, just put Managerials in any social media, and I've never done it, but I don't need to because I know what it will say. It will be probably more negative than positive comments. So the fact that the 46,000 people have parted with their cash for it's incredible.
That's the point, though, William, isn't it? The club will be looking, going, 46,000 people have still signed up.
No, look, Wolf's absolutely spot on. I mean, like the travel crud was what, I think it was 20 quid, wasn't it, Wolf? You get a wee plastic card with your face on it. So, like, they've basically replaced that and they've doubled the cost. That's what they've done. And they've also, like, thrown in, like the away European stuff. And that's obviously something that's changed. For me, when you look at the way it works, you're never going to keep everybody happy because, like, the simple reality is you've got all these people signed up to the away tickets, which means that, I don't know, what you're looking at, maybe 1 in every 3, maybe 1 in every 4 games if you're lucky over the period. So, I mean, I'm sure, like, on the Livy game's never much an issue because Rangers basically get 3/4 of the stadium, whereas at Easter Road, if you only get the stand behind the goals, everybody wants to go to Easter Road because it's a big away game. So you're not going to have everybody that's happy. Same when you go to Pittodrie. Obviously, the allocation's been slashed there as well. When you go to Tynecastle, they've obviously given us like half the stand and stuff like that recently. When you go to Parkhead now, it's obviously
800 or something, man. 700.
700 people, 600 people. I mean, so my Gears was never ever going to work. That was the reality. I liked it. You see, at the start of the season, you used to get your wee bit of paper through, and it told you all the games you were getting, throughout the season. I thought that was the best way of doing it because you knew at that point what you were going to do, and then you could go to the supporters bus, you could put your hand up in the ballot, and you knew what you needed at certain points of the season. Obviously, since then, a lot's changed. We don't take thousands at Parkhead. We don't take about half the stand at Pittodrie. We don't take, the full stand at Easter Road sometimes now. We don't get the full stand at Tynecastle. So these are things that kind of come to, like the kind of front now when you look at everything. So my Gels is never going to be perfect. You're never going to keep everybody happy. People will still argue, people will look at somebody like Wolf and say, well, how does Wolf manage to get to all away games? Well, see, we feel all the tickets are not through my Gels. They're through, sort of people that he knows. It'll be people on the supporters bus. He's got friends that he's built up over the years with European stuff. So, of course, you can still get to every away game. But you do need to know people now, probably more than you did 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years ago, supporters buses were getting 10, 15 tickets for every away game, sometimes more. We could basically fill a bus for Kilmarnock because we had enough tickets to fill the bus. We could take a 52-seater to Killy. You could take a full bus to Parkhead back in the day. You could take maybe a 30-seater to Pittodrie. Like, those buses now are few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem for a lot of away fans now. A lot more guys are having to drive by car because my Gels is has partially kind of suffocated the supporters buses, because you can't really run a supporters bus with like 3 guys or 4 guys. How much would you have to charge per head to get to somewhere?
I hate talking about buses.
No, I get that, but I think as a supporters bus, like, everything's got to be counted for. You know, every penny that goes into the bank has to be accounted for, and it's getting more and more difficult these days for supporters buses. And like the cost per head now is getting to a point where if you add that on top of your season ticket and anything that you buy at the ground, or if you go for something to eat before the game or some drinks, it's now becoming a very, very expensive day out, you know.
Can I just say, you've got a 5-minute warning now, folks. It's 8:45. If I don't receive a phone call by 10 to 9, then the phone lines will be closed, because we've only got one more subject to talk about. So I'd love to hear from you. 0141 628 7237. If you phone now, you will be brought in now. Wolf, is there anything you would like to add to that, or shall we quickly talk about the nonsense that is Rangers and Celtic moving down?
Just to smash home the point, if you like, about the ticket, about the my years and the away ticket allocation. The emails come out for the continuous credit for Hibs just at tea time there tonight, just before 5 o'clock. And the email says over 15,300 season ticket holders registered their interest for Hibs. And they've got 2,230 tickets to give them.
Yeah.
So you're talking, what, 1 in 6 chance maybe?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically 1 in 7, isn't it, really?
1 in 7 nearly, you know what I mean?
And like that means, I mean, like if you have put your name down and so is your daughter, you know, there's still a very slim chance that only one of you gets a ticket.
Well, because it's a friendship, it tends to work that they both get. If you're in a friendship, I think, as long as they're at the same my years level.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like, I know they can't like appease everybody. I get that, and I get the fact that like they can't really limit the amount of people that sign up for it, because that's not really what it's there for. But see, if you've got 15,000 people applying for one away game, there's going to be a lot of disappointed people, like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So like, you're never going to be able to. I mean, you imagine. I mean, I don't know if that's the maximum amount of people, but you imagine there's like 20,000 people at one point all applying for Parkhead, when, you know, by the time they've given players tickets, by the time like the hospitality guys get tickets, there's probably only about 100 tickets go to my jails or something like that for Parkhead. So if you've got 20,000 guys and there's 100 tickets available, I mean, you would have to almost be luckier than the lottery to get that ticket now, you know, and it's and this is where the problems rise. Rangers can't do anything about it other than go back to Celtic and say, we'll give you the whole stand behind the goals and we'll take our massive away support in the corner at Parkhead. That's not going to happen anytime soon.
That's not going to happen. Celtic would love that to happen. Celtic would love that to happen, because they struggle to sell out of the ground, whereas we've got 45, 46,000 season tickets, so it's not a problem. It's not an issue for us.
Yeah.
Right, 2-minute warning, folks. 2-minute warning to get your phone call in. Otherwise, the phone lines will be closed at 10 to 9. I say phone lines will be closed. I'll close the tab up the top of the computer, and that then closes off the phone lines. I'm making it sound as if it's exotic. It's not. It's just a tab. So very quickly then, gents, Hogan, I'll start with you. More newspaper nonsense about some legal way to go about Rangers and Celtic moving down south. I'm bringing it up because it's something to talk about. But at the same time, I'm going to be hypocritical and say I'm fed up with it being mentioned every 6 months. It's never going to happen.
I would never say never, because you just don't know what's ever going to happen in football. I mean, there's things that have happened in football in my lifetime that I never thought I would see. So I would never say never. I think one of the big things that's coming out now is that, you know, there was talk not so long ago that I think it was like the top teams in Belgium and Holland were talking about breaking away and having their own league. And then I think there was talk about like a kind of Scandinavian league that was going to be kind of put together. So see if any of those eventually do happen, that then opens the door for something like that to happen. But until that does happen, it's just chatter at the end of the day. But see, the only people that would ever have like enough power to put us in the EPL or even into the Championship or into that league would be Sky and BT. Yeah. You know what? They're
that's what Paul's saying. Unless Sky want it, if Sky want it, it might happen.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Rangers and Celtic would jump through hoops to get in, because let's be honest about it, the financial side of that would be ridiculous for Rangers and Celtic. And I know people can talk about, oh, like the money wouldn't make a difference. Well, yeah, it would. Like, clearly would. And Rangers and Celtic could go out and buy 20, 30 million players because, you know, the fan base that we've got here, the money that Rangers and Celtic fans pump into the clubs, you know, it means that every sponsorship deal you sign would maybe be double, treble, quadruple what they're getting at the moment. So everything just like grows like insurmountably. You know what I mean? Like there's like the money would be ridiculous compared to what we get in Scotland. I mean, will it ever happen? Who knows? But never say never. Because too many things have happened in football in my lifetime that you just think that shouldn't have happened and it did. So yeah, like there's only like sort of big television companies are the only ones that could make that happen. If they forced the hand of the top teams in England by saying, as part of this next television deal, we want X and X added to this league, it would happen. Because at the end of the day, in football, money talks.
Never say never, Wolf.
Never say never. I agree with that, but I think there's more chance of Rangers and Celtic being invited to join the likes of a Scandinavian league or a Benelux league, because quite frankly, the top two tiers in England don't need us. They've got plenty of cash. Yeah. They don't. I think they would like us for the size of clubs that we are, but they don't want the baggage that comes with us. I mean, look at any Rangers, and I would imagine Celtic European game. I don't pay enough attention to them to know if it's the same, but certainly for our European games, right? If we've got a small allocation, the home end's full of Rangers fans, because guys will travel. We'll take a couple of thousand to the smallest little backwater just because people want to go watch a team, and they'll get in any way they can, right? Yeah. So you go to England, you'll get an allocation of, say you get an allocation of 3,000 for Stamford Bridge. Chelsea end up full of Rangers fans. But the same at Old Trafford, it'll be the same at Leicester. They don't need that aggravation, because they're filling the grounds without that. And they know that no Rangers fan would need to leave Scotland and they could sell out the away end of every ground in England, just with Rangers fans that live in England, and the boys like Nicholas in Wales, boys like that, you know, the boys in Ulster. You know, we wouldn't even need to leave. They could say like you're not allowed to leave Scotland for these games and still fill the away end for both Rangers and Celtic. Yeah, and then you've got the guys coming down, guys without tickets. It'll just be aggravation that we don't need.
Exactly. But that's exactly that.
Never say never.
Right, we've got a question, and I'm going to bring it up. Wogan will probably have a go at me for bringing it up, but I'm going to, and I would like you to answer it honestly, but answer it, properly. Nicholas Moore, what are the Rabbles' views, and it's not the Rabbles' views, it's individuals' views, on the disgusting chants from Celtic fans made over the weekend that were directed at members of the Rangers family that have passed away over the last few months? Now, Wolf, we could go tit for tat on this with Celtic supporters, I would imagine. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Rangers fans have never sang about Celtic players who have passed away or whatever. So, your thoughts?
It's whatever. I've seen links to what was sung. I've seen comments on it. I haven't listened to it because I know it would just anger me, so I haven't bothered watching any of the videos or whatever. But it's disgusting. It's completely out of order. It shouldn't happen. Similarly, Rangers fans that sing similar songs about Celtic people dying. I know there's been songs about Tommy Burns, just to name names and things like that in the past. That's complete. It's all completely out of order. These folk, although they're our rivals in sport, and what they were singing at the weekend, obviously, is really upsetting to us as Rangers fans. It's these guys, for a start, the people they're singing about haven't passed away that long ago, so it's still quite raw. It's obviously their families are going to find out about it. They don't need to be reminded of the passing of their loved ones.
Yeah,
I don't know what possesses anybody to do that. I mean, when I was young and daft, I used to sing songs that I shouldn't have sung. We all have. We've all on supporters buses back in the 80s, but times have moved on now.
Yeah, you grow up.
Of course you do, but not just the fact you grow. Even youngsters now shouldn't be singing that because the times grow up. But you see, you grow up, the stills that I've seen of what was getting sung at the weekend, it wasn't kids that were singing it. There was kids there, but it was the parents of the kids that were singing it. And it's just, It's disgusting. It's completely out of order. It's like, if you remember back in the day, right? Back to, well, you might not remember, Martin, but well, you remember there used to be loads and loads of songs sung about the Munich air disaster.
Yeah. 100%.
Particularly by Liverpool fans. Right?
Yeah.
Then Hillsborough happened.
Mm.
And they stopped it almost overnight.
Yeah, because they realised it happened to them.
There's nothing you can do with that. It happened to us. If you want to get away from sport, look at it politically. There used to be a lot of support for the IRA in America. Then 7/11 happened. And they went, hold on, terrorism affects us as well. And all the funding from America stopped.
Mm.
You know, these guys haven't suffered the way the Rangers. I mean, we've lost over the last year. We've lost some huge members of the Rangers family. We've lost Walter. We've lost Jimmy Bell. We've lost Andy Gorham. These guys are massive parts of the Rangers family. The other side of the city haven't lost that recently. They haven't lost so many of their icons in such a short space of time. So they don't know how we're feeling, and it hurts you all the more because they do that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop speaking now because I'm going to end up getting a
Yeah.
shit.
Do you know what's actually interesting, William? Should the club have said something? Because I'm pretty sure had it been the other way about, that and maybe this would be kudos to Celtic. They would be very, very quick in coming out and condemning it.
Yeah, again, you don't know what's going on in the background with a lot of these things.
Of course.
I mean, like, there could be police action getting taken. You know, they could be going through CCTV to find these things. I agree with Wolf. I mean, I think for anybody to find that sort of thing funny is just like beyond belief, to be honest. Look, I get the fact we don't particularly like each other. See, when we play at Irish and Parkhead and you sing songs and all that, most of the time it's in one ear and out the other. You know, like you don't take it in. But to go to somewhere like Dingwall and to sing those songs and like to not even just do it once, to do it several times, I think is just taking it too far. And you're not trying to tell me that some of the guys that were singing songs haven't lost loved ones. You know, so to me, like that's like next level stuff. You know, and I find that quite disturbing that anybody would find that funny. You know, but that. Like there seems to be a mentality change now in the world where some people think that sort of thing's acceptable, and I think it's crazy. Rangers is a football club. I think people will always say that like you make sure that you do your own thing first. So Rangers would always say that Rangers fans shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that. It should really be Celtic that's coming out and actually condemning that type of thing. Well, they don't want to upset people or whatever. I don't know, but as a football club, do you actually want to be linked to a set of fans that are singing that kind of stuff in this day and age? To me, you don't, you know, and it's a real classless thing to do. And like even what Will said earlier about like the Munich thing, I mean that was a big thing at the time, and like it was brought into a lot of newspapers and things like that. And then obviously the disaster with the Liverpool fans, which was horrific, you know, absolutely horrific. And sometimes it's only until it happens to you that you realise that you shouldn't sing things like that. And I just think anybody that thought that was funny to sing that or it was acceptable on any level, you probably want to have a look at yourself, especially if you're an adult or you're a parent or something like that. Because for you to actually get back home knowing that you've done that or sung that song, knowing that you're talking to people who might have been affected by that in some way or another, it doesn't really say much about the people that are singing it, to be honest.
No, it doesn't. Right, we'll be back tomorrow night, 7:00, pre-match build-up to the Union. I'm just going to call them Union. I don't want to offend anybody by getting the name so horribly wrong. So yeah, we'll be back for pre-match build-up. I'll be hosting that. Jamie will be back after the game. He's back from holiday. He'll be hosting the reaction straight after the game. So please do join us for that. We will then be back on Wednesday with a wee Euro debrief, a wee rabble extra. And then, of course, we're back on Friday. We will preview the St Johnstone game. It'll be a phone in as well, so a few more phone calls, please. And then we're back on Saturday for pre-match and post-match reaction. So plenty to come for the rabble this week. Thank you to William and Wolf for giving me an hour and a half of their time. Thank you to the few people. I still want more, but the few people who phoned in. Thank you to everybody who watched. Please like and subscribe. We have the 200 like target. I couldn't even tell you if we've beat it already, but I sincerely hope that we have. Thank you to all our members. If you want to become a member and help support the podcast get bigger and stronger, please do. Links are in the description, and you can join underneath the video. Some people anyway. If you're watching on Twitter, give us a wee follow, give us a retweet. If you're watching on Facebook, give us a follow, a like, give us a comment. Send it all in. Tell your pals. Take your laptop to your granny's house. Say, that's a rabble. I want you to watch that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Saturday, Granny. Take it to your pal's house. Annoy them. Get everybody watching. Let's get 5,000 people watching every video. Right now we're sitting at 3. Let's get 5,000 watching. So yeah, thank you to every single person who helps make the rabble what it is. And we'll speak to you all tomorrow night at 7 p.m.